Alrighty, we got something new here to work on this week. It's a Tuesday early in the afternoon, and a couple of my friends dropped off this old Honda 450 for me to get sorted out. It wouldn't fire or make the slightest noise or anything when they were here, but as soon as they got in the truck and left, I came out to give it another couple of kicks, and it fired, ran for about 2 seconds and shut itself off. So whatever's wrong with it, it can't be too serious. I'm thinking I'll just go over the bike and give it a full tune up and check the timing and ignition timing and take the carbs off, clean them up, and maybe change the fuel out of the tank, because I don't really know how old that is. So anyway, I'll start with that and see what we come up with. Okay, this is one of those situations where I regret not taking a before picture, because when the bike came into the shop, I noticed that a lot of the clear coat was, I don't know what you'd call it, sun damaged or, you know, gradually peeling away. But anyways, I took some polish to that, and you know, the paint underneath the clear coat is still in really nice shape. So anyway, I cleaned it up. It's never going to be perfect. Like you can see right here, where the clear coat, when you hit a certain angle like this, you can really see, like, there's paint, there's clear coat, here's paint, here's paint, here's paint, here's clear coat, hiding it, right? And then you had a spot down here where it was, the clear coat was mostly missing. Anyways, I got that cleaned up pretty decent, you know, from 10 feet away. I don't think you'd even notice that. So, yeah, let's stand about 10 feet away. Well, that doesn't look half bad. Anyway, I'm not going to be charging my clients for doing that. That's just something I like to do. I'm kind of like a crow when it comes to things being shiny. I like it. So, anyway, I'm going to do a full tune-up, so the first thing to do is get that gas tank off of there, get that out of the way, and I need to remove the covers for the valves and check valve lash and set the timing chain tension before I do anything, but we'll go through that one step at a time. First thing to do, like I said, get that darn gas tank out of there. Okay, the first thing you want to do when you're doing a tune-up on anything, mostly anything with a cam chain in it, is to tension the cam chain before you do anything else. And the Honda 450 is no different. It's a pretty simple rig to adjust. All you need to do, I'm just going to put the wrench on so you can see, is loosen up that lock nut right there, and then back that little bolt off about a turn and a half or 2 turns. Now, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but I've got a little piece of 32nd inch wire stuck inside the adjuster so I can feel the back of the tensioner. And what I'm going to do is, after I loosen everything up, I'm going to go turn over the Kickstarter so that I can feel when the plunger goes as far in as it's going to go in the travel, and that's where I'll relock the bolt down against it and then set the lock nut again, and that should be it for adjusting the cam chain. So let's get the wrench back in there again, and we loosen off the lock nut. That wasn't too difficult. Then loosen off the bolt that holds everything in place. Maybe I'll use the box end on that because it seems awfully tight. Yeah, there she goes. I'm just gonna turn that out a couple of turns, and I'm going to go around the other side where the Kickstarter is, and I'll hold this little wire and feel when that plunger goes into its deepest setting, and that should be it. Put you on pause for now because my hands will be in the way and you won't be able to see anything anyway. So putting you on pause. Okay, so I went around the other side like I said, and I rolled the Kickstarter over, and you really can feel that little plunger going in there with that little piece of wire in place. Anyway, the plunger's in there at its deepest setting. It says in the book not to push on it, just let it go in naturally. So now I'm going to turn the bolt back in to hold that adjuster in place. And then we tighten that down against the adjuster. You don't want to overdo it. I mean, this is aluminum. You don't want to strip anything, but if you were terribly afraid of stripping it, I would say put a torque wrench on it, but don't put any more than about 6 foot-pounds of torque on it. But now we're going to tighten the lock nut, so that stays where it's supposed to stay. A little bit of extra insurance, I guess you'd call it, and that's it. The cam chain is now adjusted. Now, the next thing to do is go up there and get these covers off. So, obviously, it's going to be a little bit difficult to get these screws and caps off of here without removing the carburetor. So, that's not a big job. I've taken off the filters, which I want to show you. These are aftermarket filters, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. I think they're brand new, but they are just soaked in oil. So that might have been part of the problem of why this bike was having a performance issue. So I will clean out those filters really good in the Varsol tank and just lightly oil them instead, because like I said, these things are just dripping that real thick sticky oil, so that could partly clog them off in terms of letting air into the carburetors. But anyway, getting these off, someone has replaced the standard clips with these hose clamps, and frankly, they're not as pretty as the standard ones, but you know what? They work better. So when I put them back on, I'll probably put them the other way around with the clamp on, with the screw clamp, I mean, down here on the bottom where it doesn't show as well, and then you'll just get that smooth section of the clamp up on top. Yeah, this part right here. It's a lot prettier looking. Anyway, that's just looks, but they're easy to get off. They're not actually coupled together, but there is a coupling. If I can get my camera pointing in the right direction, I hope you can see it, but there's a bail right here. You see me moving that back and forth. That's what connects the two chokes together on the two carburetors. And right up here on the left carburetor is a screw that holds the bail onto the left carb. So if you undo that screw, you can push that whole bail off, and then the carbs come off separately. Of course, the cables are separate. There's no linkage between the throttles on these carburetors, and so it makes them a little bit easier to get on and off. So anyway, I've got this off. It's just a lock nut and the cable anchor screws down into that little bracket right there. So that's a piece of cake. All there is on the other side, I don't know if I can show you that and the camera will focus in, but the end of the cable, as you can see at the tip of my finger right there, just goes into that little latch on the throttle lever itself, and you just undo it from there and your cable's out. So I'm going to get on with that, get those carburetors out of the way and off of there. They needed to come off for cleaning anyway, so that works out hunky-dory for me. So there we are with the covers off. To set your valves, you slide a feeler gauge right where my finger is between the cam follower and the cam itself, and you adjust this little eccentric shaft right here in the middle of this lock nut. It's a great way of doing it. It's so easy. So anyway, yeah, you slip your little feeler gauge. In this case, it's a 1.3. I don't have a 1.3 in the 6 sets of feeler gauges that I have, but I do have a 1.5. So I figure if I set the 1.5 just a little on the snug side, I can still pull it out, then it should be okay. So another thing to look for when you're doing this, and you probably can't see it, but there's a little index mark right by my fingernail on the tip of those shafts. You might be able to see it on this one here. That little index mark right there. Those are supposed to face away from the center of the cylinder head. This one was not. It was facing inwards toward the center, so that will change the angle at which your valve rocker actually engages with the cam. So make sure that those little index marks are facing out. And like I say, I've already loosened this one off because that one's a little on the tight side. But they're really simple to use. You just turn that little screw, and when it goes all the way and it won't turn anymore, you're right hard against the camshaft, right? So all I'm going to do is turn it that way so I can get my feeler between the cam and the follower. Then I'll just bring it down till it just touches like that, and then I'll tighten that up, and that'll be the end of that. So anyway, let's get on with this. Do all four of them now. Okay, I didn't go in any great detail with cleaning those points or gapping them or setting the timing. I've already done a video on that sort of stuff. Anyway, in this case, the timing gets done at these marks right here, and it's actually set at the idle position. If you do this with a strobe light, you're going to find your timing mark sets right in between those two marks. That'll be full advance. But anyway, everything looks pretty good in there. It's nice and clean. I'm not 100% sure, but I think the points might even be new. So anyhow, they cleaned up well. They weren't really very dirty to begin with. The timing was only slightly retarded, like maybe by 2 degrees. You know, I don't think that would have been enough to affect the running of the machine at all. But anyways, it's set perfectly there now. And yeah, so nobody's ever put any oil on that wick or anything, so I'm going to lube that up. I mean, you do have to lubricate the moving parts of these points now and then, but you know, everything looks pretty new in there. Looks good to go. So I'm going to put that cover back on the alternator cover and cover those points back up, and the last thing to do with this tune-up will be to take carbs apart and clean them up. Okay, I had these carbs, or this one apart at least. This is the right or left? This is the left-hand carb, yeah. Anyway, I didn't find too much wrong inside there. It's been rejetted. I don't like that because a lot of these jet kits, the bike will just never work right with them. I always like to keep the old original jets just in case. But anyway, we can always hope. But who can tell me what's wrong with this choke? I think that flapper on the choke isn't in there right, so I'm going to have to take that out and see if I can fix that little spring, because those little those windows in the choke flap should stay shut until the engine's running and pulls them open. But trouble is, when you got the choke open, then the choke flap's kind of hanging down in the carburetor. So that might have a little something to do with why it would be acting funny. So anyway, I'll carry on with this and see what kind of wonderful surprises are in the next carburetor. Choke's closed. Those little spring-loaded gates are closed. When the choke is open, they stay up in place. I had to pull a turn off of that little spring because one of the arms had broken off. But that seems to work pretty good now. So yeah, that should be good. Okay, hold the presses. After dragging the second carburetor out and having a look at it, I noticed that the trapdoor plates for the choke are on the top instead of on the bottom like they were with this one. Anyway, after a bit of research, I discovered that they are supposed to be on the top, like like this one here. So anyway, I took this one out again, turned it around so that the trapdoor is on the top. There, now I know it's right. Always something. All right, the carbs are back on. And as far as I'm concerned, that's enough work for today. Oh, by the way, it's the vernal equinox, so happy spring, everybody. I don't know if spring is truly here or not, because it is still March, and around these parts they call March the heartbreaker, because just when you think spring is here, it isn't. But hopefully it is this time. And I don't know if I mentioned or not, but I was out on a motorcycle yesterday, so that was really nice. So anyway, next time I will try to film a startup on this little bike, and we'll see about getting those carbs as tuned in as I can get them. Anyway, and see what happens. So thanks for watching. Be good to each other, and we'll see you next time.